Hello and welcome. My name is Roger Markarian. I want to welcome you to my program Inspired by Speaking. I'm a DTM and have been speaking for the last 15 years. My vision is to help individuals who have challenges writing and speaking. In this program, you will hear others' inspired messages. Throughout this video, you will hear tips, tricks, and ideas to become a better speaker and writer. Allow what you hear to resonate so you can take action. Learn from those who are taking action right now. Thanks for being here.
Hey guys, I am so excited. I have a great friend of mine all the way from Canada, Dustin Carlson. He's been with Toastmasters for 2 years. I absolutely love this guy. He's extremely entertaining, comes up with amazing sentences for his presentations, has done a fabulous job being in Toastmasters for only 2 years. Hey, Dustin, welcome to Inspired by Speaking.
Thank you for having me, Roger. Yes.
I'm so glad we finally could hook up. Hey, I've listened to a couple of your presentations. How might you describe your creative process? What might you say?
Okay, great question. First, I don't just come up on stage and speak. It starts earlier in the day. I'll get ideas, maybe earlier in the week, where I've got a little thought that I believe could manifest into a speech. I then take that to the public. I take that to a cashier or somebody who I can speak with, and I float that idea to them, friends, family. And I watch it come back and morph and mutate. And those ideas I then assemble in little bits and clusters that I can hopefully sew into a speech, which by the nature of which I don't get that interaction. It's a one-way dialogue that it's hampered with that creativity because there are no eureka moments by yourself. It usually takes a coffee table concept of passing an idea around to all these magnificent minds that can then take that, evolve the idea, mutate it, and some ideas are poor, but some of them are amazing and they make the cut. And I can then put my name on it and send it on the speech.
I love it. I absolutely love it. When you talk about mutating an idea, expand upon that. Someone who's listening might not know exactly what you mean. What do you mean by mutating the idea?
Excellent. So if I had a core of, okay, I'm going to build a product, let's say, and I am by myself without any input, I'm not going to be able to I can give it some benefit and some new ideas. However, it will really take hold when that product is then tested with the public and I get feedback from the public, and then 2.0, 3.0, I can make a better product for the people. The same kind of concept is for speeches, where crafting it by yourself can only get you so far. Saying it to a mirror, saying it to your dog, all of those things are great, but it lacks the dynamic of what, for example, Toastmasters. If I've had a presentation that requires feedback and a 2.0, a next level, the second one's always better. It's because of the feedback and rebirth of that. And so when I talk about mutations, it's just an alteration, an altered state of the same concept. And when you consider memes or ideas that slip around and inhabit somebody's mind, those memes, or word worms, I believe, as Mark Twain would have called them, or earworms, they mutate and they live in our minds. And how that idea manifests, and that's its habitat, per se. You can see that with a slip of a word on a song. It's not the same. You say it to somebody else. Well, that new rebirth, that new idea of the song can persist in its habitat of people's minds. Again, with speeches and products, and all of these are analogies. You'll have to forgive me. I'm an artist, and you're just going to have to accept that as my way. I just give you kind of ethereal concepts, and it's up to you to try and unpack that and maybe come back to the base of the mountain, stone tablet and chisel in hand, and figure out what I got to say.
I love it. So you have this chisel in hand and you're working away at your craft, and you also incorporate ideas of other people to help perfect your craft more so you can deliver it properly. I just love the comparisons that you just made. That was fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about art and how art relates to writing and your thought process. Talk about that from a creative perspective. How does that work for you?
Okay, so intention and attention are two very powerful thoughts for art. For your focus in your mind to put it to your forefront of your mind, and the attention that's going to require. And then allow yourself to make mistakes. It's a process. So you can go through different manifestations of manipulating something. Like if you were working with clay, well, there's temperature ranges, there's sweet spots that moves and is agreeable. If it was, let's say, glass blowing, there's temperature ranges, viscosity. All of these things for art mediums need a sweet spot. And you could consider that with speeches, where it's a flow, it's a dynamic, and you're in charge of just letting ideas out. So get them out, get them on paper, and about 90% of it is editing after that. It's just rearranging your thoughts. So the first thing is just to get it out, and there are no wrong answers. Just get it out, get it down, and put it on, and don't judge it. Just put it down. Come back later after the free flow of information has left you, because creative flow is exactly that. You cannot demand of it. It's a resonance at points where sometimes you can be around other people who are interested or their passion, and you can feed off of that for your own energy, and your feedback loop exists. But it's, again, just to put it out there and get your ideas down and go back later and expand upon those. Okay, well, this seed grew something that then I can harvest for another concept. And those kind of thoughts towards creativity and speech making.
Love it. I love it. What great flow you just had. I didn't want to stop you. In fact, I'm just going to sit here and sip on some coffee and enjoy your presentation. I think that was awesome.
Thanks,
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about flow. When you are in your sweet spot, what is that like? What is the feeling of being in that flow that you're talking about? What is it that your body's experiencing and you know you're in flow? And how might you compare that to art?
If you've ever had a project at work and the time just drags, and you've ever had a project at home and all of a sudden it's night and you're thinking about, maybe I should have had lunch, that's the difference. You're in the zone at that point where you're completely focused, you're present. You're not thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, how it's going to be. You're in the zone. And finding that zone is difficult. And that's when I talk about flow, it's accessing that zone so that as a conduit, these ideas can flow. You can manipulate yourself sometimes, where you might have an area you go to, condition yourself, and when you're focused, just be all that. If you start to wander, don't force yourself back to that project. Do a little thing, reward yourself for being creative. Go do a little thing give a treat to yourself in some semblance, and then come back to it. If let's say, have a light that's in that area that might spark that, you only have that on when you're working, like a study lamp, very similar. You can coach yourself into being more productive, but it isn't a strip mine. And once you take that creative flow and you commoditize it, that's where you're at risk of a killjoy, and you are not having fun anymore. You're not feeling it. Most of art is emotions. And so if you're in a great space, if you're in a good zone and you can pump that out, your work will show that. If you're wanting and demanding and taking, well, that's strip mining. And you can glean a little bit, but overall, the productivity is better if you're in a zone. And we've all felt that way. If you've, let's say, tried to throw a piece of paper in the waste bin and it made it, and there's a little thought, you actually knew ahead of time that it was going to go in. Maybe that's just me, but there is a way you can kind of get into the zone. And around my waist bin, there's a lot on the outside, and that's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. I would also say, be too hard for yourself, there's a lot of talk about mistakes. As an artist, you need to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and accept them as part of the process. If you were, let's say, renovating a bathroom and you're tasked with finding the flaws in the paint you just applied, your reality is then looking for flaws. How are you dissecting that? Your product at the end will be better for it, But it's the curse of the artist that you're not in the bliss of ignorance. You then have to, and it's very difficult to shut off that Terminator kind of vision of detecting flaws. It's for the other person to enjoy. And as a gift of art, which it is, art is a gift to somebody else. It's maybe your hands or your pen can make these things, but it's for others to enjoy. And if you, let's say, have a pool and you're tasked with being the pool boy of fishing out the leaves, well, then it's hard for you to enjoy that pool sipping daiquiris and a leaf falls in it right next to you. If you had a pool boy, you would not have this issue. Pool boy artist, synonymous. Take of it what you will.
Yeah. Pool person, I need you.
Exactly. Come on over.
You shared about risks and why it's so important to take risks. Share with us, how often are you taking risks when you're writing or up on stage, sharing your ideas and thoughts, or in front of a lectern? How do you take risks?
I take them all the time. I will go into a prepared speech with nothing but hastily jotted notes on a dirty napkin I had at lunch. Awesome. And it's a problematic of my life. I feel I am too busy to focus on my real and actual life and the creative outlets I need, because I do have a very structured work and I find creative outlets where I can to nurture that side of me. And Toastmasters is one of them. I go through that, but you got to put yourself out there. You have to just understand that you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have flaws. What other people perceive of that is not in your control, and it's where your focus is. If you had an audience full of people and out of the whole group one person is heckling, what is your reality? Is that one person really going to keep you up at night looking at the ceiling, or are all the other people you brought joy to going to be your focus? And it's about shielding yourself from that and recognizing it if it's in yourself. If you are your own worst critic, how to edit that and just, smile at the image, accept that that was a thought, pass it off into something that is better for you. And it's very, very difficult. If it was a takeaway from all of this, you wouldn't be worried about what people were thinking of you if you realized how little they thought of you. And that's a crushing thought, but in reality, it can set you free. It's hard. We're all in our own minds, and you look at somebody, and especially with the social media world we have, you're only seeing the highlight reel. You're not seeing all their troubles and anxieties and out there on the plate. And that exists in every human. That it's hard to tell with Zoom. All of you might be just figments of the matrix, but at this point, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You're all sentient. Thank you for coming.
That really is the purpose of this, is really just to let it out. I love you shared so many great ideas, Dustin. I want to go back to one that you talked about regarding the napkin. Tell me a little bit about why that adds value to anyone who just has a pen and a napkin in their hand.
Thanks for being a good zookeeper and keeping my thoughts corralled. It's great because when you have a mind, like if you've ever been up at night thinking of something or you have it in your mind, you need to get it out. You need to put it somewhere so that it's acknowledged and stored, so that your mind can generate new things without just tossing it out. I can't tell you all of the amazing ideas I've had that I never wrote down. Without having a backpack stenographer, you're not going to capture that. So it's important to just keep a little notebook and jot it down. And sometimes it might just seem crazy. Cars need slippers. Like, what is that? That means nothing. So yes, elaborate on that, but it's the faintest ink is better than the weakest or the strongest mind. And it's just getting it out. And then you have a component, a bite that can then be packaged with other thoughts, organized properly, so that it isn't just this gobbledygook, this dog's breakfast of ideas strewn upon the table. It's actually going to be organize so that somebody else can understand what's going on in here, because it's a bit of a zoo. And so as a respectful thing for others during a speech, organize it, get it into bites, get it into packages, place that. And I believe there was a comedian, I'm not recalling the name, who talked about his set and how he would package it. And a lot of comedians, for example, would always put their greatest material at the end. However, he would slap that to the beginning, forcing him to work on the ending. So it was a continual switch and improvement upon that.
I can't tell you how many ideas I have created, how many ideas evolved because I took the time when I was driving my car and I was at a stop sign or a light, and I wrote down that idea on a piece of paper. And that idea evolved into something fantastic as a result of just spending a few more minutes with the idea that was shared 10 minutes prior. In fact, I have done presentations in front of very large groups. I've done hour presentations and longer based on the same analogy. I'm finding those fragments, but those fragments become something powerful as a result of listening to the word and then breathing life into it. I love that. Great analogy. I also want to ask you another question. Based on what you shared earlier, boy, you shared so much. It's hard to, I'm sitting here writing like an octopus with 4 different hands, trying to capture all this. But you shared something also that affects a lot of people, and affects a lot of people in unfortunately a very negative way. Some of them are perfectionists, and they listen to feedback, and it gets into their head, and they fall apart at the seams. Mm-hmm. You talk about how you can only control yourself. Can you give some tips, or can you expand upon that a little bit more, or how to let go of some of those outside influences to allow your creativity to flow more?
It's up to each person to define what the best environment they are best suited for the creative flow, how to harness that. And it might just come as a trickle, and that's okay. It's a process, and you can nurture it. For my own sense of how I get my own speeches up and going in front of a crowd, I will take those little parts that I've got, let's say, prompted on a notepad, and I have the skill to weave it live and get those ideas and find little transition bits and kind of put it together. And that for me is a stimulus, and I'm always trying to get back to somewhere with a rush. It's a very kind of like an addictive quality where I've put myself out there. I've felt the rush. What an amazing experience. It lets you know you're alive. It's wonderful. Get the butterflies flying in formation, and then take it to the next level. But it's a desensitization to that, what was once an extreme, and you push the boundaries of your limits of comfortability and how to broach bigger and bigger audiences. And coming into Toastmasters with that kind of weave and flow of getting ideas, it's like a workshop. It's like a painter studio. It's okay to have something half built in the corner. You can kind of bring it out, get some feedback, and put it there. So the feedback is essential. It's also essential to move on from it. And if it's really affecting you and tearing up your heart, okay, measure yourself in what you will accept of criticism and how much you're going to take to bed with you at night and keeping it up. But it's in the drive of growth. You can't grow without a no, and like that didn't work. And you will need persistence, and that's very important to it. I always joke about my first time on the dating scene. Hey, Dustin, you want a girlfriend? Go get nice clothes. And what did I buy? But like the button-up flaming dragon shirt. It was guy-tacular. It was amazing. The homies loved it. Elbows up. No, is what I heard. And it hurt. It hurt bad, Roger. It hurt so bad. But like the Phoenix From the ashes of the crucible, I arose and got a slightly better outfit. It was great. Not sure if that answers your question. That was a journey down the garden path, but you're just going to have to buckle up. We're going places, Raj.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh my gosh, I'm still laughing at that interview. Not only was it informative, it was entertaining, and I'm sure you found that to be the case. Dustin left us with so much good information. He took his paintbrush, dipped it in the paint, and he put his paintbrush all over the canvas. A true artist. Please leave Dustin some feedback in the comments section of the YouTube channel. Become a subscriber and listen to these great interviews every Friday. If you'd like to get a hold of myself or Dustin, send me an email at inspiredbyspeaking@gmail.com. If you'd like to be interviewed, send me an email as well. Here's some great points that Dustin left us with.